Librarians, how important they are. We have a chapter called Librarians Unbound. And for you cool young folks who are here and you think, oh, you know, they're those corny old librarians, think again, they are the freedom fighters of our time. Librarians Unbound. The two visitors standing at the front of the Library Connection, a consortium of 27 Connecticut libraries that share a computer system, did not look like they had come to inquire about the latest novels. The men, one dressed in a blazer, the other in a tight t-shirt, flashed their badges and asked to speak with the boss. George Christian, the Library Connection's trim, mustachioed, and ever-courteous executive director, ushered them into his office. They introduced themselves as FBI agents from the Hartford office. They proceeded to hand Christian a national security letter, an NSL, demanding any and all subscriber information, billing information, and access of any person or entity that had used computers in the 27 libraries between 2 p.m. and 2:45 p.m. on February 15, 2005. The letter advised that the information was sought to protect against international terrorism. Christian was stunned. Terrorism? Libraries? Was this the plot of some clever new thriller? The agents assured him they meant business. They drew his attention to one line in particular. Like a children's librarian, one of them used his finger to underline the words and instructed Christian to read them carefully. The recipients of this letter could not disclose to any person that the FBI had sought or obtained access to information or records. It was a lifetime gag order. Break it, and Christian could be looking at 5 years in jail. He peered through his wire-rimmed glasses at the good cop, bad cop before him and stood his ground. I believe this is unconstitutional, he said firmly to the agents. He told them he would fight the order. One of the agents smiled, giving him that pitying look that a bully gives the prey he is about to pulverize. The agent handed him a business card and instructed him to have his lawyer contact the FBI. As the men from the FBI left, George Christian slumped into his chair and he thought, oh my God, how am I going to deal with this? He didn't even know if he told his lawyer. If he revealed this information to his lawyer, would he go to jail? And so he thought there's only one thing he could do. He said the only way he thought he could take on the U.S. government, the national security letter that at this point some 200,000 or more national security letters have been issued, you know, gagging the person who gets it. If he is going to take on the U.S. government, he thought he needs at least 3 librarians with him. And so he called the executive committee of the Library Connection. And his first call was to Peter Chase, director of the Plainville Public Library in Central Connecticut. Earnest, bookish, and imbued with a strong sense of civic-mindedness, Peter Chase is the quintessential librarian. You know, he wears the pocket protector. And when we came to the library to interview him, we were bringing our coffee in, and he said, "Into a library?" We knew he was the real deal. He just couldn't say no when his fellow librarians asked him in early 2005 to serve on the board of the Library Connection. They said, "We'll make you the vice president," a colleague said to woo him. "It'll be easy." 2 weeks later, he gets a cryptic phone call from George Christian. George says to him on the phone, "We have a situation that requires a decision of the executive committee. It requires it right away," Christian informed him solemnly. Little did Chase realize that his volunteer work was about to morph into a nightmare with the national implications. The executive committee, George Christian said, "Don't say where you're going. Don't tell your wives, your husbands, certainly not the other librarians where you're going, but I need you in my office now." And so he is racing off to the Library Connection office. And when he gets there, they have their lawyer, and the lawyer leaves saying, "This is way beyond my pay grade here," because they disclosed the national security letter to the other librarians. And it's sort of like radioactive. Now they are all exposed, and they are all gagged automatically. And so she leaves and she says, "You need the ACLU." They join up with the ACLU and they sue the U.S. government. And they try to take on the USA Patriot Act. Now, interestingly, they had this gag order. They became John Doe versus Connecticut. And what was scary about this is that Peter Chase, this bookish librarian, head of playing the library, had been arguing against the Section 215A of the USA Patriot Act that said you have to give this information over in a series of debates with the U.S. Attorney of Connecticut. And now when he was being asked, it was very important because Congress was deciding whether to continue the USA Patriot Act. And the next time Peter was asked to participate in the debate, he didn't feel he could, because he didn't want to lie, and he knew he would be asked, do you know these Connecticut librarians? He just couldn't bring himself to not tell the truth, to somehow prevaricate. And so here, the U.S. Attorney, who was involved with going after these librarians, was accepting every invitation, knowing that his adversary, the person who was going to fight the USA Patriot Act, could no longer speak. It was so serious, these librarians, that they were not allowed in the courtroom when their gag order was being debated. They had to go to a courtroom 2 hours away, and a security guard in this Connecticut courthouse, which they brought them into a closet through a closed circuit system. They could watch the courtroom, but they were not allowed in the courtroom that was hearing their case. The security guard was a little surprised that he was locking librarians into a closet because he'd never done that before. But it really warmed their hearts when their vantage point of the courtroom was looking over the judge's shoulder. That's how the security system worked, the closed circuit camera. And they saw librarians from up and down the East Coast filling the pews of the benches of the courtroom, because they were there showing their solidarity.